90% of people will work their entire lives and never become wealthy. Not because they're not smart enough, not because they didn't get lucky, but because of one thing nobody ever sat them down and taught them: how to actually think about money. School teaches you algebra. It teaches you history. It does not teach you the one subject that determines almost everything about your future: the psychology of wealth. Today, that changes. I'm going to break down exactly why most people stay stuck financially their whole lives and the mindset shifts that separate the wealthy from everyone else. Let's get into it. Reason number one: people stay poor, they trade time for money, and never stop. Here's the trap. You go to school, you get a job, you trade 40 hours a week for a paycheck. That paycheck covers your bills, maybe a little left over. Next month, you do it again and again for 40 years. This is called linear income, and it has a hard ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day, which means there's a hard limit on how much you can ever earn this way. Wealthy people understand something different early on. The goal isn't just to work harder for money, it's to build things that make money whether you're working or not. Investments, businesses, assets that generate income on their own. This doesn't mean quit your job tomorrow. It means every dollar you don't spend should eventually go towards something that pays you back, not just something that disappears. Reason number two: scarcity thinking. If you grew up hearing "we can't afford that" over and over, your brain quietly absorbed a belief that money is limited, that there's never enough, that wanting more is greedy or unrealistic. This belief is so deep, most people don't even know they have it. And it shows up in small decisions every single day: not applying for the higher paying job because they probably won't pick me, not starting the side business because what if it fails, not investing because that money feels safer in my hands. Wealthy people operate from a completely different belief system, what's often called an abundance mindset. They believe opportunities are everywhere, that money is a renewable resource, and that failure is just feedback, not a final verdict. You cannot build wealth with a mind that's constantly bracing for lack. The shift has to happen on the inside before it ever shows up in your bank account. Think about two people offered the exact same opportunity, a chance to invest in a promising new business. The person with a scarcity mindset immediately thinks about everything that could go wrong. What if I lose it all? What if this is a mistake I can't undo? The person with an abundance mindset asks a different question. What can I learn from this, and what's the actual realistic downside if it doesn't work out? Same opportunity. Two completely different outcomes, because the belief underneath the decision was different before either of them even looked at the numbers. Reason number three: nobody ever taught them the difference between an asset and a liability. Here's the simplest definition you'll ever hear. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it. Most people think their car is an asset. It's not. It's a liability. It costs you money every single month through gas, insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. Most people think a bigger house is automatically a good investment. Sometimes. But if the mortgage, taxes, and upkeep eat your entire income, it's a liability wearing an asset's costume. Rich people obsess over one question before any big purchase. Does this put money in my pocket or take it out? Then they spend the majority of their money acquiring the first kind: real estate that generates rent, businesses that generate profit, investments that generate dividends, and they minimize the second kind wherever they can. Flip that ratio in your own life, even slightly, and everything starts to change. Here's a real-world way to see it. Two people each get a bonus of $10,000. Person A buys a brand new motorcycle. Fun for a weekend, but worth less the moment they ride it off the lot, and it costs money every month after that in insurance and maintenance. Person B puts that same $10,000 into a small rental property down payment, or an index fund, or a course that builds a skill they can sell. A year later, Person A has a motorcycle worth less than what they paid and less cash overall. Person B has an asset that's either grown in value or is actively paying them. Same starting point, same amount of money. Completely different direction because one of them asked the asset versus liability question and one of them didn't. Reason number four: fear runs their financial life. Fear of losing money keeps people out of investing entirely, so their savings sit in an account earning almost nothing, quietly losing value to inflation every single year. Fear of judgment keeps people from starting a business because what will people think if I fail? Fear of the unknown keeps people in jobs that make them miserable for decades because at least it's familiar. Here's what wealthy people understand that most people don't. Calculated risk is not the enemy. Staying still is the actual risk. While you're avoiding all risk to feel safe, inflation, rising costs, and time are working against you anyway. That doesn't mean being reckless. It means learning to take smart, informed, calculated risks and building the knowledge to tell the difference between a smart risk and a reckless one. Picture someone who's wanted to start a small online business for 3 years. Every year, they tell themselves next year when things are more stable. Meanwhile, someone else in the exact same financial position spends a few months learning the basics, starts small on the side without quitting their job, and treats the first few failed attempts as tuition, not humiliation. 5 years later, one of them still has the idea. The other has a track record, real experience, and a business that actually works, built entirely from a willingness to risk being bad at something in public before getting good at it in private. Reason number 5, they stop learning about money the day they leave school. Think about how strange this is. People will spend years getting a degree for their career, and 0 hours learning how to actually manage, grow, or multiply the money that career produces. Wealthy people treat financial education as a lifelong habit, not a one-time class. They read the books, they watch the breakdowns, they follow what's happening in markets, in business, in investing, not obsessively, but consistently. This is genuinely one of the easiest fixes on this entire list because it costs almost nothing. You are watching a video about money mindset right now. That alone puts you ahead of most people your age. And reason number 6, the one people underestimate the most, their environment. If everyone around you complains about money, mocks ambition, or treats wanting more as arrogant, you will absorb that energy, whether you mean to or not. Your environment shapes your beliefs faster than any book ever could. You don't need to cut people off, but you do need to be intentional about who you're learning from, who you're listening to, and what beliefs about money you're letting influence you every single day. So let's bring it all together. Most people stay stuck because they trade time for money and never build anything beyond it, because they carry a scarcity mindset without even realizing it, because they don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability, because fear makes their decisions for them, because they stop learning the moment school ends, and because their environment quietly keeps them small. None of these are about luck. None of these require a special background. Every single one of them is a mindset, and mindsets can be rebuilt, starting today. This channel exists to unlock exactly that, the thinking, the habits, and the strategies that separate the wealthy from everyone else. If this video shifted even one belief you had about money, hit subscribe because this is exactly what we break down here every single week. I'll see you in the next one.